also mentioned, one of the things you mentioned on there, you talk about news media and selling division. I mean, we're in this divided time right now, and that's what the news media does. But why is it important for us to keep in mind that the media is trying to divide us, and what can we do about it? I mean, that's a bigger question probably than this discussion. But why is it important for us to realize that, or even identify it, that media is selling division?
Yeah, we have to remember that news media, we think about news as, I think most people are aware now, and there's a lot of data about the sort of steep decline in American trust in journalism. So I think there is an awareness. But even though there is an awareness, I think, news media has, though we don't trust it as objective journalism anymore, we've sort of accepted it for what it is. And not only accepted it, we've sort of embraced it. So this is interesting, but it goes way back, long before the digital age. You think about, a lot of your listeners will know the name Neil Postman, who was a social commentator, philosopher, in the 80s and early 90s. And he, his famous book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. And in it, he's critiquing not just technology, but specifically media, and specifically television and television media. And he talks a lot about how I've found his work so helpful and so prescient. Like, you read some of his stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, it feels like he's writing yesterday, not 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But he writes about how information has changed, where before the telegraph, the fastest that information could travel was about 30 miles an hour, which was the speed of a train. So if something happened in New York City, for that information to get to even a place like Philadelphia, which is nearby, it wasn't instantaneous. It was literally as fast as the news could travel on a train from New York to Philadelphia, which would have been, several hours or an hour or something, right? And then the telegraph changed everything. Now, through like Morse code and electrical wires, the news could travel instantaneously. And Postman talks about how in that sort of new technological leap, and now exponentially so with the internet, where I can know what's happening on the other side of the planet literally in real time, information goes from being localized and effectual, is I think his word, essentially meaning information intended to affect something, to affect change, information designed to help the person in the local community respond to the information. Rather than that, now, because information can travel so quickly and I can know what's happening on the other side of the planet in real time, even though I don't live on the other side of the planet and there isn't really much I could do about it because I'm not locally there in that place, because I have the information, it's an ineffectual sort of commodity. I just know it. And then what happens is, because I can't really do anything about it, what do? I just sort of shout and scream and give my unwarranted, unsolicited sort of opinion about the matter into the digital ether. And thus we have outrage culture and all the shouting and screaming. It doesn't really do anything. It's just, so he talks about how information in the television age specifically, he talks a lot about how information has become an entertainment commodity. It's not really about doing something in the world. It's just meant to entertain us. And I think the digital age has amplified that exponentially so. So all of that to say, for me, I think that's a big part of where the sort of news media as entertainment, again, awareness. We're aware that it's not objective journalism, but we have to become more aware. We have to become aware that really for them, I think the bottom line is to entertain us, not entertain us in the classic way, like, hey, this is fun, look at all that, not like that, but keep us engaged, essentially, keep our attention, hold our attention, grab our attention. And the best way to do that is, and the data shows this, the best way to do that is to incite our rage, to incite our anger. It's literal psychological data that's been proven. That's what keeps us scrolling and swiping and clicking and liking and sharing. And so, because of that, that's what they're going to put out there, the stuff that makes us angry and the stuff that is most polarizing, the stuff that's going to keep us yelling and screaming at each other as consistently as possible. We have to be aware of that, and realize in that whole sort of schematic. These are the words of Tristan Harris, who's a design ethicist. We are the products,
Yeah.
like human beings. Our attention, Tristan Harris calls it the attention economy. Our attention is the product being bought and sold on the sort of digital marketplace. So we have to be aware of that. The more we give it our attention, the more we are being bought and sold and exchanged for the benefit and the profitability of the bottom line of media companies. And I'm not anti-media necessarily. All I'm saying is, especially for followers of Jesus, we have to engage thoughtfully, so that we can again, ultimately for this purpose of being formed into the likeness of Christ and not formed into the image of whatever it is media wants to form us into.